Welcome to the Podficcer Baton Pass for Shutterbug by I. Riley. The way this works is that I'm reading Chapter 8, Ray of Sunshine read the previous chapter, and Dust Bunny will be reading the next chapter, passing along who will be reading Shutterbug until the podfic is finished. With that, let's get started. Shutterbug, written by I. Riley. Read for you by Gemini Wishes. Chapter 8. Despite saying he'd be fine, Peter found himself sitting in between Dick and Bruce. Why the man hadn't sat up front, Peter didn't know. Peter had admittedly sat next to Jason, and Bruce had moved Jason over to sit between the two. Damien, who was sat across from him, kept looking between him and the kitten he was holding. The drive was silent, except for the soft sounds of the radio. "We've arrived, Master Bruce," the older man said, looking in the rearview mirror to see his boss. "Thank you, Alfred. It shouldn't take too long." When the older man, Alfred, gives a nod, everyone starts to make their way out of the car. A limo, really, but Peter was waved off when he said as much. Once inside the building, Peter notes how it's not only a vet's office, but that they also sell pet supplies. Looking over as Bruce starts to talk to a lady behind the desk, Peter moves to sit on a waiting room chair. Petting the kitten now in his lap, Peter lets his mind wander. "This spot taken?" Looking up at the boys, Peter sees Jason. "Nope." Peter smiles as Jason sits down, the white kitten, Webbs, settling onto Jason's lap, similar to how cat Jason is on Peter's. I need to find a nickname for this little guy. Calling him Jason in front of Jason could get confusing and embarrassing, Peter thinks, as he looks over to the store side of the building as to not let his light flush be seen. "They're ready for us," Tim says as he walks over. Standing, Peter and Jason move to stand with Damien while the nurse walks around to show them to their room. "Can I ask for their names and who's with who?" The nurse gets a nod from the three as Damien starts. "This is Raven. I'm Damien Wayne." She nods as she writes it down, like she didn't already know, on one clipboard, before picking up a different one and turning towards Jason. "This guy's Webbs, and I'm Jason Todd. Todd Wayne," he quickly adds on, not quite used to the addition to his name. She nods and writes it down, once again, pretending not to know. Once she had the next clipboard, she finally turns to Peter. This is Jason, and my name's Peter Parker." Glancing away, the nurse writes it down and sets the clipboard down. She turns to face the three before speaking. "I'll sit here. We'd like to bathe them before running their checkups and providing any vaccines, if that's all right with you." Getting a round of nods, she continues. "You're welcome to take a look around the store, or if you'd like, you can wait in here." As she finishes speaking, two other nurses come in to help carry the cats into the back. Once out into the store, Peter sees Duke and Steph looking at some fish that are on display, and Cass is looking into an enclosure holding mice. Dick and Celine are looking at dog food, and Tim is inspecting a bag of cat food. Walking over to the cat food, Peter starts to look at the kitten food. Deciding on a bag of food, Peter turns around to grab two small bowls. Taking a second to grab a shopping basket and placing his items inside, Peter makes his way to grab a cat collar, harness, and leash, unsure if he actually needs them until he sees Jason carrying similar items. Sighing, Peter walks to the checkout counter before paying. "You'll need a box, litter as well." It's Damien who comes up behind him. While his senses didn't go off, they did seem a little louder. That's to say, Peter didn't jump at the boy's voice. Nodding, Peter explains. "I'll get it at a store closer to home. That way I don't have to carry it. Plus, I'll be able to let him pick out some toys and treats." Damien seems to consider this for a moment before responding. "We could provide you with a ride." "It's okay, it's only a short bus ride." Damien didn't seem satisfied with that, but didn't comment further. Before long, they were called back into the room. After getting resettled in, the doctor comes in to help the nurse give checkups. It's not long until all three cats have been looked at and shots were given. "You're all set. If you have any questions or concerns, just give us a call." Getting a nod from the three, the doctor smiles and leaves, followed by the nurse. Once in the waiting room, Damien makes his way over to Dick, who's standing near Bruce and Celine. Lifting the cat up a bit to be eye level with him, Peter sees the cat hold out a paw to push the man's face away when he got too close. Hearing someone move to stand next to him, Peter looks up to see Jason now with Webbs laying on his shoulder, now wearing a harness and leash. Giving the taller man a smile, Peter looks over when he catches sight of Bruce making his way towards the cashier despite his lack of items. Squinting at the older man, Peter tries to take a step towards him when he's stopped by the hand on his shoulder. He won't let you pay, especially after the dinner. Jason shakes his head, but gives Peter a small smile. He told you about that? To his embarrassment, Jason nods, smile turning into a smirk. Sighing, Peter looks back over to Bruce to see the man giving him a smirk when they make eye contact. Peter resumes his squinting, getting a chuckle from Jason and what seems to be a suppressed laugh from Bruce. It's not long after Peter's stare down that they're standing in front of the building and waiting for the not limo. As the car pulls up, Peter starts to turn when he's stopped by yet another hand on his shoulder. Why don't you join us for dinner, Peter? If you don't have any plans already, that is, Bruce says, taking his hand off Peter's shoulder. I wouldn't want to trouble you, Peter says as he shakes his head. There's no way I'm going to fall for this again, he thinks. It'd be no trouble. If anything, you'd be doing us a favor. Alfred had made too much food. Peter doesn't quite believe him, but before he could respond, his stomach decided to betray him, like a traitorous traitor. Sounds like a plan, the older man says around his smirk as he holds open the door. Shall we? Peter can only cut his losses and climb into the car. Holding the car door open for Peter as he slips out, Jason closes the door before making his way up the staircase. Glancing at Peter, who got stuck in a conversation with Celine, Jason feels a mix of embarrassment and sorry as he thinks back to why he's here. Earlier, walking past the waiting room to stand near the side while Peter looked at cat food, Jason hears Duke and Bruce talking. He'd probably come if you offered dinner. He hadn't touched the food table at the shoot. Probably didn't even know it was there. Too focused on the photo shoot, Duke says. Thinking for a moment, Jason realizes that Duke's right. He hasn't seen Peter eat this entire time. He frowns, but doesn't move otherwise, choosing to listen to Bruce's response. That could work. Seems like we'll be finishing up soon. We'll ask when we walk out. Jason agrees that it could work, but still doesn't understand why. And why are you trying to get Peter to come with us? He asks. Duke and Bruce look at him before glancing at each other. Looking back at Jason, they both respond, Information. Giving the two a blank stare, Jason just shakes his head and walks away. Sitting at the table on Bruce's left, Jason looks up to see Dick talking to Celine. Next to him sits Tim, who talks to Steph, who's on his left. Babs sitting at the end, an empty seat next to her. Next to Celine sits Damien, and Duke has the misfortune of sitting next to him at the end, similar to how Babs is. Glancing down the table, Jason feels bad for Peter. Alfred had pulled a seat out for him, so he'd sat, but it didn't take long to notice that Alfred was trying to show the clear line of distance. Jason can only sigh at Alfred's act of protection. Ever the grandfather. Soon enough, Alfred brought out the food, setting down bowls of a stew he'd made, now that it was starting to get colder, setting Peter's down last. Peter gives a big smile and turns to the grand butler. This smells amazing. Thank you so much. Alfred just gives a shallow bow before turning to leave. Damn, Alf. No comment? That's cold, Jason thinks, focusing on his own food. He doesn't start eating, however, too used to the rules of guest. Noticeably, Peter doesn't move to eat either. Instead, he waits for Bruce to start. Interesting. Sneaking a glance at Tim, Jason can tell he's picked up on it too. Most, if not all of them had, surely. As they all start to eat, Jason gives another quick glance down to Peter. Trying not to choke on the bite he's taken, Jason looks back down at his plate while reaching for his drink. Peter practically had stars in his eyes. Jason could relate to that. His own experience with Alfred's cooking when he'd first arrived at the manor was similar to Peter's, although he'd lacked the same decorum, Jason having picked up a bowl of soup and drank it, foregoing any silverware in the process. Jason can almost hear Bruce's laugh, but the older man stifles it with a cough. Doing so, however, gains just about everyone's attention. Jason can see the oh shit moment. He runs with it. So, Peter, how did that test go? Much to both Jason and, probably, Peter's horror, this starts a wave of awkward small talk. I think it went well. I heard that Wayne Industries is working on a new energy source. Is that right? Peter asks, getting a nod from both Bruce and Tim. Yes, we're trying to make a cleaner energy source. I'm afraid I don't have all the information. Tim's in charge of Wayne Industries. Peter gives a surprised look and glances at Tim, who nods. We've been working on a way to produce cleaner energy in an efficient and affordable way. That way it's more accessible to the general public. Tim lists off. Really? That sounds awesome. I have had... He takes a deep breath before continuing. I knew someone who'd been working on something similar. Peter looks down at the empty bowl and lets out a small, sad smile. I'm sorry. What was their name? Tim asks, noticing Peter's slightly somber mood. Tony. Tony Stark. Tim nods. Unsure of what to do, Jason looks over to Dick, silently communicating. Do something. What do you want me to do? I don't know, you're the emotional one. Dick looks affronted, but tries nonetheless. So, Peter, what are you hoping to study? Peter blinks back up and responds. I want to get a degree in biophysics, possibly going back to get something in biochemistry. Dick gives a low whistle. Sounds tough. Peter gives a laugh, but agrees. Yeah, but I've got a good feeling about it. Luckily, it seems the mood had raised. Thankfully, Alfred arrived soon after with dessert, a small plate with a slice of chocolate cake, a scoop of mint ice cream next to it. Soon enough, everyone has a plate, and as Bruce starts, they're quick to follow. Alfred's cake is the best, after all. Jason notices that Peter is eating around anything that touches the ice cream. Alfred, while refilling a cup, seems to take notice. He always does. Is there something wrong with the ice cream, Mr. Parker? As he speaks, he raises an eyebrow. Oh, no, sir. I'm, allergic. Peter trails off. Alfred seems to soften at that. My apologies. It's a rare allergy, so I'd presumed it would be a welcomed reprieve from the cake. Peter waves off the apology with one of his own. It's okay, it's my fault for not saying anything. Alfred is quick to shut it down. You couldn't have known to say. You couldn't have known I'd be allergic, Peter's just as quick to say. They both stop, looking at each other in an almost silent challenge. After a moment, Bruce clears his throat, gaining the attention of the two. While Peter looks slightly sorry, Alfred holds his head high. Thank you for the food, Alfred. It's delicious as always. A round of nods from around the table, and even Peter nods along. Glancing at the time, Bruce stands and makes his way towards Peter, or rather the doorway. Thank you for coming, Peter. I have some work to do, but you're welcome to stay. Not waiting for a response, the elder man makes his way down the hall. I should be heading home about now. I have a few things to grab still, Peter says, standing. Jason follows suit. I could give you a ride. He can practically feel his family's eyes on him. It's no trouble. I told my friend I'd meet them tonight anyways. He tacks on at the end, seeing the attempted refusal on Peter's face. The shorter of the two hesitates, but nods. Giving his goodbyes, Peter and him make it out front and to Jason's bike. Climbing on, Jason motions for Peter to do the same. You'll be fine. You can hold on to me if you want, Jason teases. How could he not? Peter blushes a little, but does get on, holding onto the back of the bike, sending Jason a small smirk as he does. Letting out a small laugh, Jason starts the bike, passing Peter a helmet as he slips his own on. Jason gives the engine a rev before taking off down the long driveway. Speaking through the mic in the helmet, he asks which way. You can drop me off near the library. Sending back an affirmative, Jason turns right. Holy hell. If Peter didn't stick to things, he might have flown off. When Jason makes a bit of a tight turn, Peter lets himself fall into the man, wrapping his arms around his waist and holding onto the bike tighter with his legs. He can feel Jason laughing before he hears him over the mics in the helmet. Peter squeezes his arms to show his lack of amusement, but it just causes Jason to laugh more. Not long after, and Peter's climbing off the bike and handing the helmet back. Pulling the zipper on the jacket down a bit reveals a ruffled kitten. Smoothing out the fur on top of its head, Peter moves to reposition him while trying to take the jacket off. Jason stops him before he can get an arm out. Keep it, and if you don't want it, then you can give it back the next time I see you. Peter doesn't quite know what to say, so he just nods and zips it back up, mindful of the kitten resting inside. Thank you for the ride, and jacket. Jason smiles and waves it off. Get home safe. I'll see you around, yeah? Seeing Peter nod, Jason reaches over to scratch the kitten's head before taking off down the road. Moving to the bus station, Peter starts the short ride to the supermarket. After driving away, Jason remembers really, that he does not in fact have a friend waiting for him. Pulling into a parking lot, Jason looks over the array of food trucks. Finding a taco truck, Jason's quick to join the queue. A short while later, and Jason now has a bag of tacos and a phone in his hand. Jason. You home? I got tacos. Scene at 9:45 p.m. Roy. I'm always home for tacos. Shaking his head, Jason climbs back onto his bike while sending the text, "on my way," and starts his drive. Once the box is set, bowls are filled, and toys are scattered, Peter makes sure the door and windows are closed before changing, taking care to hang the jacket up on the nearby chair. He lets himself fall into his makeshift bed, cat Jason curling onto his stomach as Peter falls asleep.